Quotation from myself, segment 36, quotation number 410. The Western economists, with their blind faith in the miraculous cure for all ills, attributes of a free enterprise, free market capitalist economy, and in their stubborn insistence of the worldwide implementation of it, had been proven so far to be as dogmatic as their communist counterparts, who had until recently stubbornly clung to the idea of a state-controlled, centrally planned and regulated economy. And while the fact that free enterprise, free market economy had worked with varying degree of success only in a very small number of countries and in a relatively short, as far as human history is concerned, period of time, and also that its future is far from certain, had no visible effects on its proponents, the communists, after 70 years of tottering on the brink of economic disaster, had been finally disabused of their faith in the planned economy. It seems now that both sides have fallen the victim of a very seductive but misleading notion that there is one universal cure for all diseases, one universal answer to all questions, which stems from almost religious belief in unity, in universal law, and in the unwavering defiance of the obvious diversity and infinite exceptions. (411) Ungratefulness, exhibited by almost everyone at one time or another, is often nothing more than an outward manifestation of the subconscious desire to assert one's independence and to reject the claims of reciprocity. 412. One who has spent most of his life living for others finds himself, when they do not need him anymore, with nothing to live for, since he doesn't know how to live for his own sake and usually has very little time left to learn it. 413. Emigration is an act of sacrificing the pioneering generation for the sake of subsequent ones, whose future success, however, can be by no means guaranteed. 414. As the world rejected me, so I too have rejected the world. 415. If balloons had minds, they would have probably avoided contacts with any sharp object, in the same way as a pompous but insecure mediocrities who always, as if guided by sixth sense, try to stay as far as possible from anyone clever and witty. 416. Janus, the two-faced god, whose temple's doors stayed open during the war and closed when the ancient Rome was at peace, can also be looked upon with some justification as a god of art, criticism in general, and literary criticism in particular. For this particular art, or for this peculiar art, peculiar because it does not actually create anything independently also displays as Janus the two-sided nature in its ability to judge any work of art from at least two diametrically opposed perspectives. And anyone familiar with the work of arts and literature has to concede that even the best of them, or perhaps especially the best, often lend themselves to the totally contradictory judgment. Consider, for example, Hamlet. Is he a tragic figure, grappling with the eternal question of life and death, or is he a conceited pretender with hypertrophied inferiority complex? Or is he both and many things more? The source of this ambiguity is the reality itself, which art and literature reflect with very degree of accuracy, because in reality, as we all know, from the sublime to the ridiculous is but one step, or to be more precise, sublime and ridiculous, wise and foolish, tragic and comic, etc., are usually different sides of the same phenomenon. And it is in the critic's hands and power to emphasize one side and to disregard the others, as that is the basis of their sometimes enormous clout. Verse 17. What shall it profit a man to have an open mind when his heart is closed? When his heart is closed. 4:18. The greatest gift God has bestowed upon mortals is their seemingly infinite capacity for self-deception. Or is it the man's greatest curse? 4:19. In today's world, anti-Semitism is the last refuge of a racist. 4:20. Know thyself and your limitations, both internal, personal and subjective, and external, objective. Do not compare constantly yourself or your life with that of the others, neither those who are better, nor who are worse off than you are. For everyone is different, and so are the circumstances of one's life. You yourself is the only true measure of your success or failure, satisfaction or disappointment, happiness or misery. 4:21. To those who want to change the world, I would suggest to try first to change a single man or a woman, and then to consider the fact that there are more than 8 billion of them. 4:22. Having never lived in England, I am not sure if it has ever or is it a nation, ever been, or is it a nation of shopkeepers. But I am absolutely certain that America is, and seems to be destined to remain forever, the nation of salesmen. 4:23. One is always striving for what one presumably lacking, and assuming that in this case the reverse proposition is equally true, what one is lacking can be inferred from what one is striving for. Thus, the one who is searching for an ideal and professes to be an idealist is, in all probability, essentially a realist, while the other who is looking for what is real and calls himself a realist surely must be in his heart an idealist, for both are longing for completeness, for the other half of the whole. 424. Some people, God knows how many, have to be protected first of all from themselves, and only then from anything and anybody else. 425. When one thinks of ever-present and seemingly endless possibilities to make new mistakes, why waste all this precious time on repeating the old ones? 426. A lot of people would rather lose, but have it their way, than win following somebody else's good advice. For apparently man values the sovereignty of his decision more than their end results. And here I would suggest lies perhaps one of the possible explanations why, despite so many excellent solutions to man's problem, known and offered again and again from the time immemorial, the results are still far from satisfactory. 427. How can one expect those who claim to be indifferent to their own pain to have any compassion for somebody else's suffering? 428. For some people, being flexible simply means trying to have it both ways. 429. The present world, at least as far as the balance between good and evil is concerned, is not that much different from the world of the past. Although our capacity to do good has increased manifold, the means of causing evil not only never lagged far behind, but on too many occasions seems to be overtaking it. 430. Behind the passionate rhetoric of nationalism, with its incessant evocation of the national uniqueness, spirit, culture, pride, etc., there are always the pragmatic and materialistic, mundane and crass, and mostly mistakenly perceived self-interest. 431. In most real-life situations, when we have to choose between the two or more equally possible but contrary responses, the greatest difficulty usually confronting us is the realization that almost any course of action we choose entails both winning and losing, and nobody can predict the future, on which in the final analysis the outcome of all our decisions depends.